Hi, and welcome to the Human Rights Committee of Council for December 12th, 2025. I'm Sherry Rollins, the chairperson. With me is Ali Raposo, Councillor Marcus Chambers, Deputy Mayor, Kara, and online a variety of our committee. Thank you very much for coming online. Peter Prinsloo is our clerk, and we've been putting him through the paces. So I want to start off the meeting thanking Peter Prinsloo. This meeting that we've got before us is a robust agenda. But first, before we go into gratitude and thanks and what human rights activities you've been up to, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory and the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota people, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis, where drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'm going to need a motion for the minutes of the last time we were together. Ruben, would you be prepared to move those? So moved by Ruben. Do we have a seconder? We don't really need one. Thank you. All those in favor? And that was carried as far as I can see unanimously. Is there anyone opposed? And Phyllis, I don't see you. Can you hear us?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I am hearing you. Are you hearing me?
I am. Yeah.
Yes, I am driving back to my office and okay. I'm muted and I'm not on camera.
Okay, perfect. Keep you safe. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
So with us too is Chris Roussart, who's observing today from the Universal Design Office. And thank you very much for doing that. We've had really good relationships between the Universal Design and it's a key interest of ours. To start off,
could we just have a quick motion to allow the virtual folks to participate remotely? So moved.
So moved by Councillor Chambers to allow remote participation. All those in favor? And of course, those of you online should vote too. Thank you. I believe that was unanimous. Is anybody opposed? No, there is no opposition to that. So before we go in, well, our first report is a thank you to outgoing committee members and welcoming them to the new Human Rights Committee of Council Alumni Club. I received a note from a few of you that you want to say a few words, and typically before the during the first item of the agenda, we talk about human rights in the city or in the world and what we've seen in the last, since the last time we've been together and what we've been involved in. And this time I want to, phrase it as a real thank you to outgoing members. Michael Baker, you started off our idea to have this as number one of the agenda. And it's with some irony that I have a note from you saying that while you're participating, you cannot speak. So if I can, I want to give voice to you and to relay that, relay your gratitude to this committee for the opportunity over the years to engage in public debate. And so I can do even better than relaying your brief remarks, because in my hands here is the fruit of your labor. And I want to show you some of the universal designs that really your work inspired here. And so I don't know if you can see them, you're clapping, but I'm holding them up. They're super tangible. And these are the mocks, these are the mocks. So I'll pass them out here in the room, but I want to thank the committee because, you make a difference. And it's tangible. You can touch and feel it. And Michael, that's your work. So we will still do something, next year. But it's important to acknowledge the work of the committee. And as you go off into the alumni that I also have ambitions for, you know, I think it's important that we remember the leadership that you provided as a citizen member. Does anyone want to intervene and discuss item number 1? The item being thank you to ongoing committee members and welcome committee to the new alumni club. If not, we'll need a motion to receive this item as information. Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, that was carried unanimously, but really, thank you. The next item is dialogue events overview. Right off the hop, does anyone have any comments on this? I want to remind everybody that we did seven dialogues, starting with our organizational dialogue, the cafe conversation, and then culminating into International Toilet Day, a partnership with MCIC at the Hive at U of W. We also, thanks to, this is where the subcommittees, I think, really shone, the Emergency Preparedness Dialogue for International Week of the Deaf, the U of M Kitchen Table Talk, co-hosted with the Center for Human Rights Research on calling for justice and reimagining governance, aligning municipal practice with the calls to justice for national inquiry into MMIWG, age-friendly launch consultations. We are not at all done yet, but we did get to pilot some of the things that we're going to be doing there, and got really important feedback so that we can launch in earnest in 2026. And the Food Security Human Rights Panel, the fireside chat with Harvest Manitoba, Mama Way, has legs for more work next year. And so I don't know if you want to discuss this, but or if any of you want to reflect on how far we've come. I don't mean to put words in your mouth from that cafe conversation, but boy, am I ever proud of what we accomplished this year, what we set out to do, and that we're doing it with in terms of the public education piece on the Human Rights Committee of Council, the Sustainable Development Goals, human rights treaties, and more. Any comments? If not, we'll need a motion to receive this item as information. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
That was carried unanimously. Committee budget update. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a very small, tiny capture. If you are over the age of 50, like I am, it might have slightly irritated you. Before we started today, I was modeling my new glasses. The item number 3, as well as items 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 are all related to budget and the execution of budget. So I'm sure the clerk will ask me to get a motion for each on its own merits. But I want to flag that those are sort of together. We are doing what we told council we are going to do in terms of our budget lines. So I hope you see that too. Is there any questions related to item 3? If not, we'll need a mover.
It's Phyllis, and I can't raise my hand only because I'm being responsible.
Yes, just drop.
Thank you. Regarding the budget, I was just wondering if the HRCC has given some consideration regarding, looking at 2026 for expanding its reach via its subcommittees, particularly the EDI committee and some of the different groups. For example, you are aware of this, Councillor Rollins, a desire to reach out to communities such as the Sudanese communities. We're not sure to do 100% what, but we would like to enter into dialogue with them. And I thought I would just ask about budgets before we have the final stamp in terms of how much is being assigned. And just let me know if my question is not clear, but there's a question rolled into a comment here.
Yeah, this item is pertaining sort of to the, the basically the point in time capture of some administration pieces here. You will see though, we did, to your point, Phyllis, rejig the budget fairly significantly to provide the subcommittees with a budget. And so, in terms of that structure, the subcommittees did have for 2025 a fairly significant budget, and in some cases did partnerships that we have on this agenda. For instance, the research partnership with Rainbow Resource Center is a result of the subcommittee's work and the Human Rights Committee of Council's work in rejigging the budget. So there is a lot of room within the budget to look at something. I did see your proposal initially. It's not on this agenda item. I think there's some more work to do. But there is a budget at subcommittees, to your point. And, in part, it's led by some of the work. It's led by the work plan of the chairs. And so when we get to this item, it's appropriate because you can see some of the structural work too, that even before the budget that we proposed to council, Councillor Chambers as chair really structured a grant. And so within those grants, you can see some of those partnerships here, such as the grants for Immigration Partnership Winnipeg and more. So this one we have, anyway, so I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I think it does, and I appreciate you taking the time to address it. Thank you.
Yeah. I do think it's really important that the subcommittees do incredible work. And when we get to the agenda item on the proposed scheduled meeting and the 2025 work plan, I think you'll see, you'll see some of that structure and certainly from the subcommittee reports, we can, maybe ask the chairs to comment on the flexibility they've enjoyed with budget and what more or different they might want for the coming year. But definitely we've moved more money towards the work of the subcommittees and proposed that, and council endorsed that. And I think you see on the agenda the benefits of that with that partnership that we've got there with Rainbow Resource Center and Pro Research.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. If there's anything further, we'll need a mover for the committee budget update. So move. All those in favor? Any opposed? That was carried unanimously. Work plan and reports from the subcommittees. Okay. Angie, you have the first report. So if I can tap you to introduce your reports for the committee.
Sure. They're on record, so if I may just give a verbal report, if that's okay.
Yes.
Instead of reading. Okay. So just reporting that since our last HRCC meeting, we've had 3 accessibility and inclusion subcommittee meetings. Actually ended up kind of being in 3 committee meetings and 1 unofficial meeting on December 3rd to commemorate International Day of Persons with Disabilities. We had originally intended to come together as a group, but couldn't find a communal event that fit everybody's schedules, so everyone participated on their own, and we'll be reporting back to the committee on that. We continued work on snow clearing updates with Public Works, which included simplifying the application process for the medical clearance form. So work just continues with Public Works on that. And as you had talked about, Sherry, the subcommittee did a fair amount of work, particularly 2 members with WFPS and emergency preparedness in the deaf community, and ongoing work that was highlighted and revealed, and gaps revealed in terms of accessibility were highlighted and identified, and will be probably part of new work going into the new year. And we've participated in in all of the events you had mentioned, but particularly the one that stands out for me is Winnipeg's Human Rights Dialogues and Compassionate Cities conversation event that at CMHR that we some of the work of the subcommittee was highlighted almost like in a poster presentation. So that was fun to see and really gratifying to see our work, the work of the subcommittee on display. And a major event, our piece that we're going to be meeting with Transit Plus in January to receive a presentation around the updates on the updates that have occurred with Transit Plus. And then from there, we will very likely, the subcommittee, develop a strategy around further work with transit. And we just overall our subcommittee continues to be really keen and interested on the Accessibility for Manitobans Act, and the act is receiving some amendments, and so we are going to be keeping a watch on that, as well as regulations that are released. So it's been a busy year, and lots of work has been done. I'm very proud of the subcommittee. We have lots of great members who are very engaged, and looking forward to next year.
Excellent. Any questions? Okay. Kara McCaskill.
Yeah, our reports are available also as part of the package, but maybe I'll just provide a few highlights of the things we've been working on over the last couple of months within the Equity and Diversity Subcommittee. So in the month of October, we were able to further the work we've been doing around enhancing 2S LGBTQIA+ rights within the city through our partnership with Rainbow Resource Center and Probe Research, which is really exciting. So we've had a chance to meet with Rainbow and with Probe to talk about how we can support. We've provided some financial support at this point, and we are now waiting for the data specifically with relation to the Winnipeg Census Metropolitan Area to be available so that we can have a look at it and see where we're going to go from there using the data that's being collected. We've also talked about having a dialogue event sometime in the new year around a 2S LGBTQIA+ documentary, having a chance to watch it together and then have some dialogue around that. So that'll be forthcoming as well. And then in November, we've had some discussions around creating a working group that's going to be putting together gender-based violence resource guides around resources available within the city for folks experiencing gender-based violence. And we have also started preliminary discussions around hosting a dialogue event to raise awareness around the atrocities happening in Sudan. So there's more work forthcoming on that as well in the new year. So I think we've tackled some interesting and important things over the last few months, and I really look forward to doing more in the new year.
Okay, any questions at this juncture? Okay, if not, if someone will we'll move to receive the reports. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? That was carried unanimously. Human Rights Committee of Council terms of reference. So we have within the terms of reference the direction from council to review the terms of reference each and every year. That is within the mandate of the committee. We need to be doing that. This year, we actually have something that I'm walking on today for your consideration, because the we had happy news, another collaboration with the Environmental Leadership Council, who approached us to get an intern. And I will come around to how this impacts our terms of reference, but suffice to say is council typically requires a motion to both receive a grant or receive a gift, and our terms of reference are at play because our terms of reference never really envisioned anything more than a coordinator position. So I have a motion, and if you'd like, I would suggest that I or the clerk could read it into the record, because I appreciate this was not in your package, and I apologize for that. That is, that is my, my bad. But it isn't without some thought and difficulty to, really consider how do we receive an intern. So in part, this is really good news. We have, I think the agenda really speaks to all the partnerships we've cultivated over the year, including this one. It's just, we need to dot our I and cross our T we've already landed the internship, but we need to dot our I and cross our T with the relationship specifically with Human Rights Committee of Council, and it impacts our terms of reference. So the motion with respect to the terms of reference for your consideration, or I'll start ahead. The motion is to have the Human Rights Committee of Council recommend the following to Council. 1, that the position of an intern for the Human Rights Committee of Council be approved. 2, that the intern be under the general supervision of the Human Rights Committee of Council coordinator. 3, that the city enter into an agreement with both the individual fulfilling the internship position as well as an Environmental Leadership Canada for the acceptance of an in-kind grant. And 4, that the proper officers of the city be authorized to fulfill the intent of the foregoing. And then with respect to the terms of reference, the advice is to have council concur and to write in the internship position under the coordinator. So I imagine you have this, you would like to discuss this, but this is the motion that I'm proposing, the 2 motions that I'm proposing here vis-a-vis the terms of reference, in order to be able to successfully land the Environment Leadership Canada intern and get them working on a 7-month term with the Human Rights Committee of Council. And to accept that in-kind grant from the Environmental Leadership Canada, which is, I think, really exciting. But what do you guys think? I'll turn it over to you at this juncture. Or are you just prepared to move?
Ruben's got his hand up.
Ruben? Sorry, I didn't see your hand again.
What would be the specific role of the intern?
So we have in the What We Heard report, we had some climate specific goals for the Human Rights Committee of Council, ranging from food security to the biodiversity climate justice files. And so because we have a co-developed biodiversity policy being proposed at council that I'm proud of, with co-developed with Treaty 1, Inuit Association, and more, I'm proposing that the intern work with the Human Rights Committee of Council on climate justice issues, the food security issues that we've identified, the dialogues, and lean into the biodiversity file that I think is a really interesting, very Winnipeg specific climate file that the intern would be interested in. So that's it in a nutshell. I can forward you. I can forward you the application that worked, that got us the intern if you'd like. Angie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the interactions with the subcommittees could be. I know I've been involved in some work around climate justice and people with disabilities, and there's a lot of, unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, emerging research in the area, identifying that marginalized populations are particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change. And there are some populations that experience it more acutely than others, particularly people with disabilities. So I would think that there would be an opportunity to do some work in this area, given that we live in a climate of severe, kind of some severe weather outcomes, whether that's heat or cold or snow. And so I think that if we're thinking about initiatives for the subcommittee going forward, that for 2026, that could be something that we would probably be very interested in doing. So I don't know if there would be a piece of that person's time to help us out with that.
So the pitch was to the Human Rights Committee of Council. That includes the subcommittees. I want as much exposure to the subcommittees and the Human Rights Committee of Council. I envision them, being part of those meetings for sure. Without there's still a study aspect. Also, there is an aspect, while they are fully covered and fully paid for by the Environmental Leadership Council, there is a suggested bonus structure that we would also bring forward next year, a couple $1,000 that we would need the Human Rights Committee of Council's agreement to. It is just meant to be sort of a bonus for them. But yes, Angie, the answer is yes. I mean, it's an intern, so it's yet identified, although we have been given a start time of January 26th, which is why time is sort of of the essence. And I will be talking to my council colleagues about what we need to catch the ball on the council side, because really, while we can recommend to council, it really is both an executive policy committee and a council referral. So I am likely to also suggest, if we can, to get this as a walk-on to next week's meeting, but that's not mine alone to decide. It's a discussion with the mayor and Councillor Chambers and really all of council on whether or not they feel time is of the essence. It's just it's just the administrative niceties, or for lack thereof, of being able to catch a ball like this. For us, I think it's really exciting because I think even though there is a structure that I pitched, essentially we pitched the structure that is the Human Rights Committee of Council structure, which includes the subcommittees. So I do think that we can regroup with the person once they're identified and we know who they are, and sort of sit down and talk about their academic interests, and be able to have a conversation, with the chairs, obviously, and Dali and I. So that I think we should do. I'm just excited that we have two post-secondary human rights programs. And so I, of course, envisioned having potentially an internship with them. But this one sort of fell into our laps due to some of the climate caucus work that I do as a counselor. So I think it's a pretty exciting internship for someone. I'm looking forward to meeting them. We just have a few little things to do beforehand, and this is where I'll fall on my sword before Peter Prinsloo again and thank him so much for the behind the scenes work he did with civil legal to get us some advice and some structure on how to in fact do this. So Phyllis, you have your hand up.
Thank you. And really exciting news just to hear about the internship program. And I just wanted to echo what Angie shared just now regarding the lens of looking at the impact of the work around the climate and folks with disabilities, as well as folks who historically have borne the brunt of climate change and any sort of environmental changes. And typically those are your racialized and marginalized individuals. And so a bit of a comment and a question regarding the scope of the work and the lens through which that work is being conducted so that we can see from an empirical perspective the impact on the groups that we represent via, the accessibility committee as well as the EDI committee. So that's a question I have for you, Sherry, regarding this, whether the scope of work for the intern details those kinds of lenses that would be required to do this work.
So there is room because, like I said, we don't, right at this point, I don't, the person is anonymized. I don't know who they are, what their educational background is or their interests. So I'll say that at the beginning. I just know that we do have one. They can start January 26th. Some of that has been moved back already. So there's that. So barring that, what we wrote into the environmental leadership that was around a few activities that in no way, by the way, this is a fully formed plan. It's just ideas on what we had in mind. So that doesn't preclude any other ideas that we have as a committee. But what we said was there's a climate action plan and community energy investment roadmap. This is the City of Winnipeg's policy and investment roadmap around climate. We said that the intern could update, this and look at that framework because it's an important framework for the City of Winnipeg. We pointed to the co-development of the biodiversity policy, which is anticipated to be in draft, that integrates Indigenous knowledge and Western science and coordinate, and look at that with the parks and open space and the bylaw amendments that we anticipate coming forward. The human rights and climate dialogues and event management we pointed to as a third aspect of work, including curating speakers, developing dialogue themes, managing logistics, producing post-event reports and recommendations. So that was another aspect. A climate newsletter and publication with partners. Another aspect. Climate justice joint projects, which is more in line with what you are talking about right now, was added to co-design projects with equity organizations. Public education and engagement was identified, intergovernmental and partner relations, building partnerships with NGOs, Indigenous governments, utilities, and universities, and more. And then funding and resource mobilization, identifying grant opportunities, exploring green bonds. So we identified about 10 themes And my next steps would be to, obviously work with you. One of those themes are exactly in line, I believe, with what you're seeing. And, we can finally meet the person and reflect on, their interests. I think that that's really important too. And then regroup. If you want to, we can, have a conversation when we're a bit further along. But first, in the new year about our ambitions and some concrete projects to build it into the subcommittee's work plan, for instance.
Sounds good. How did you mention the duration of the internship?
Only 7 months.
Are you kidding me? And we have that laundry list.
Yes, and they bought it. So, we successfully drew one down. And so I think because the laundry list was essentially talk to us about what you would do. It doesn't have to be fully formed. And so that was the response to not fully formed, but here is basically the laundry list of things that, come to mind. And so I do think we didn't handle the interviews. So we were able to attract an intern on the basis of what we had going on, both as a city and as the Human Rights Committee of Council. So, I think you should be proud of that. But yes, I think we're going to have to narrow it down. That is multi-years worth of work, but welcome to working with the Human Rights Committee of Council. We are ambitious, right? And so, yeah, we're very ambitious.
Very much so. I do have one last quick question. In terms of the sourcing the candidate, if you can just give me maybe just a 30-second overview, Sherry, as to the process. And here's why I'm asking the question. So as we represent the city in terms of, looking and speaking to human rights, opportunities, and so on and so forth, we're always wanting to do so through the lens of human rights, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I'm just wondering about the sourcing of that, the sourcing and how we came to land on this particular candidate.
Yeah, Ali can intervene here, but the answer is less than 30 seconds. We had nothing to do with the sourcing. It was Environmental Leadership Canada. So Ali, you.
Yeah, no, basically that they did a recruitment process. They asked us to share on our socials as well. So we put it out on our reach. The individual is between the ages of 18 to 30. And they will be working in Winnipeg. There's some other internships. I think the other one was in Brandon. So they just want to source from local. And that's pretty well all of the information that we had. And Selkirk,
we think.
And
so
we'll maybe.
That's why we need to reconvene. We'll stick it on the agenda too. If you want to move to stick it on the agenda for the next meeting, I think we'll know better. We won't know until the meeting in March probably, but we can reconvene and provide that update. But to date, we haven't been identified. How's that for an answer, Phyllis?
I'm happy to move that we put it on the agenda for 2026.
Okay.
So noted.
So noted. And do you want to move the terms of reference items?
So if I may, Madam Chairperson, so respecting item 5, so the motion would be that the Human Rights Committee of Council terms of reference be amended to add the following new section. And that is section 8.4, which reads, the Human Rights Committee of Council may engage the services of an intern for the purposes of supporting the work of the Human Rights Committee and its subcommittees, subject to A, that funding of an intern position be within the Human Rights Committee of Council budget as approved by Council annually, and B, that an intern position be under the general supervision of the coordinator, and that this be forwarded to the Executive Policy Committee and Council.
Did you want to do the first part of that motion too?
We can do that. Has to be its own separate motion, and we'll
need to suspend the rules. Okay.
That's right.
Phyllis, are you okay with that?
I'll move for that.
So moved. All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, that was carried unanimously. And then
We can do
we
the,
need a motion to suspend the rules on the first motion, and the clerk will read it into the record, Peter will read it into the record because it was some time ago. Or I can, it's right in
I
front of me.
can, yeah.
Okay, so the motion is for the Human Rights Committee Council to recommend the following to council, but we'll need a suspension of the rules first to essentially walk the motion on. But the motion is for the position of the intern to be approved, for the intern to be under the general supervision of the coordinator, that the city enter into an agreement, and that the proper officers of the city do all things. Is someone prepared to move? Angie or Kara? Kara, good. I need also a motion to suspend the rules first.
I
Thank you.
move.
Thank you. I think that was Angie.
Angie,
Okay,
yeah.
all those in favor? Any opposed? That was carried unanimously. And then Kara, I think, is prepared to move the intern motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That was also carried unanimously. Okay, and then we will put it on the agenda for the 2026 upcoming meeting. That is the terms of reference, number 5, and the intern. Thank you very much. 2025 budget for events and work plan. This was on the agenda as item number 6. Is there any discussion? It's a draft for discussion. So in it, I'm thinking it should read 2026, not 2025.
Well, the budget portion is for 2025.
Okay.
And so to be clear, that portion is a ratification of a previous approval.
Right.
That was done via email, and that was respecting the 2 events that we hosted. So that is just the ratification part there.
Okay. Did you guys want an introduction of this item, or is someone prepared to move? Up to you.
I'm prepared to move, Angie, if there's no discussion.
Okay, Angie's moving. All those in favor? Okay, excellent. That was, any opposed? That was also carried unanimously. All right, we'll move into 2026 schedule of meetings, Human Rights Committee of Council. Because we have new members going to council this month, my suggestion is we survey the members like we did last year with respect to times, etc. Does anyone have any preliminary thoughts at this time? Is someone prepared to move for information? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Does that mean, would there be a January meeting? Just thinking around the quick turnaround time with the holidays and.
I know, I'm not thinking we could do it in January. But,
okay.
We certainly, if we have, no.
No, we can. It was for a subcommittee thing, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You mean subcommittees, Angie, or do you?
No, I mean, like, were we starting the HRCC meetings in January, or is there a sense that they would, the cadence, like, I know the cadence is different than the subcommittees.
Yeah, the cadence is in the subcommittees, you meet monthly.
Correct, yeah. And the other.
And the HRCC, we attempt to be in line with the spirit of the terms of reference, which is 6 meetings. Some of the meetings, while we didn't necessarily get quorum for the dialogue, some of the meetings this year were sort of the dialogue. So that I think we need to get better at going out into the community and saying, okay, this is actually a formal meeting, but it's the dialogue, right? And that is still fine with our terms of reference, but we need to identify it and make sure we have quorum. So there were dialogues that I think we were all there, but we didn't identify it as that's one of our meetings, just because we didn't do that this year. But in January, we do have some dates.
We have some dates.
That we can send around, I think a choice of 2 each month going forward, but you, Councillor Chambers, you have something.
Yeah,
you
no,
want to say?
I was asking a question whether in terms of reference would be the number of
Yeah.
meetings required
Yeah,
for the committee.
yeah. I mean, I think we could put it, you know, I don't know if you have any thoughts about other events, because there's no question we had a lot of events this year. Both through the dialogues, the Compassionate Cities launch, you know, but whether or not they were fully attended with quorum is what we would need to meet the spirit of 6. And so we sort of had a lot more meetings, but not necessarily live online here. And so that's not necessary. It doesn't have to be all fully clerked. So you know, that might be part of the survey too, right? Because we are allowed to have meetings that aren't live on camera necessarily. I'm suggesting that if we're going to do the number of dialogues we did this year, that should be an option for us to sort of have 3 formal meetings like this and then 3 dialogues, because it's a lot for citizen members to have sort of 6 meetings and, right? You know, right now, it to me, it looks like a tremendous amount of work that we did as a citizen member committee this year. When you look at just the 7 dialogues we did alone and consider all the logistics that went into that, the subcommittee work that went into that and more, you know, and then you add another 6 meetings on top of it. Anyway, I think we certainly met a seriousness threshold. We got a lot of grant money out the door. We did a lot of partnerships. But were they all sort of in line with those 6 meetings that we traditionally did live on camera? No. So we do have the flexibility to do both, and it's just getting the quorum numbers. And I'll ask Peter to clarify.
Yes, so my recommendation with this particular item is that we lay it over to our next meeting. And then in the interim, we can survey the members that are to be appointed by council next week. And then we can come back at our next meeting with a list of remaining meeting dates and have those approved for the remainder of 2026.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, my question, just to be clear, was merely just if we were having a meeting in January. So just because January is coming up and
Yeah.
people, like there's
Exactly.
calendars that
Yeah,
are
we're
already
thinking
filling up.
February. Yeah, we're thinking February.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
And-
Thanks.
And my calendar in February is a lot, so we're thinking February. Okay, a motion in line with clerk's recommendation. Kara, all those in favor? All right, any opposed? That was carried. Now, the next items 8 through 16. I'm going to ask for forgiveness from the clerks, but I do believe we can handle them as an omnibus item, because they are all related to the budget that we proposed to council. And it is ratification. We still need them. Ali and I only have authority of $1,000 under the terms of reference. I think we've been successful at doing that. But if there's any questions, I think we can do them as an omnibus because they're all for approval.
Consent.
Yes, so the only ones that I would highlight is number 12, the Can You See Us launch. So the amount that was published on the agenda, I got that wrong. That one should be $1,538.69. And then item 13, I was advised by the coordinator there was no expense related to that one, so that one can just be received as information.
Oh, yes, sorry, I have a note on my file as that too.
And then I believe we should have a new business item for the expenses related to the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner and United Cities and Local Governments meeting expense.
Okay. And those, okay, so why don't we just do them separate then?
Okay.
What do you think? Unless we could do items pertaining to 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, and 16 is omnibus?
We can.
Okay, do we have a mover on those expenses? Thank you, Kara. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That was carried unanimously. Going back to item 12. Item 12 is a correction on the amount. Can you see us launch? This is really exciting and in a really important partnership. I also would encourage you in your networks to spread the word if you can, that the amount should be corrected as $1,538.69. Do we have a mover? Kara, all those in favor? Any opposed? That was carried. Then the item, which would be net new business.
There was item 13, and that one is just to be received.
Yeah, item 13, Mwegameg as a human rights project. There was no expenses. It was a partnership with MCIC, so we just need to receive this as information. It will be corrected on the agenda. All those in favor, Kara's moving. Any opposed? That was carried. And then finally, I'll need a suspension of the rules for new business. That's moved by Kara. And the new business items pertains to the UN Human Rights Committee of Council. The Human Rights Office, the High Commissioner, and the United Cities local governments. As you know, we want to participate locally, nationally, and international. And we sort of nailed some of the international work this year. And this pertains to expenses for, I believe, Geneva and Korea, Rockin City of Winnipeg's action there. Do we have a mover? Okay, well, it looks like it's almost unanimous, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? That was moved. And that was carried. And then if anyone has any concluding thoughts, we'll need a mover to adjourn. Okay, thank you. Very much appreciate all of your work. That was an amazing year. We'll regroup soon. I believe that motion was carried unanimously. And if there's no concluding thoughts, have a great holiday if you're celebrating, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. See you in
Happy holidays.
2026.